there's a possibility that Tesla could seriously surprise us here, but the question is, would this be a positive or a negative? I think the chances of this actually happening are low, but certainly a possibility remains, and I think all Tesla stock investors should be aware of this. I posted this video about a month ago on Patreon. If you like it, then you may want to join Patreon. And I also added some new commentary to this video as well. We know that Tesla is sort of in need for a compact in China, and maybe you could say in Europe too. In the US, well, not really. However, think about this. If they build a factory in China or another factory to serve a Chinese market, then Tesla sells these vehicles. Tesla is not getting the battery credits. And then consumers buy vehicles in China. They do not get a $7,500 credit. That's a big deal. And also, think about this. Tesla's mission statement is to transition the world to renewable and sustainable energy. The market share of battery electric vehicles in the US is relatively low if you compare that to China. In China, EV adoption is quite a bit faster than in the US. So if we want to follow Tesla's mission, wouldn't it make more sense to actually serve the US market with a compact first before we do that in China? Because also think about this. If we sell the same $25,000 vehicle in the US versus in China, in the US it only costs, what, $17,500? In China it still costs $25,000. In other words, Tesla could sell that compact for $32,500 in the US and it would still cost $25,000. Tesla cannot do that in China. As long as the cars are made within North America, Mexico, Canada, or US, the consumer gets the $7,500 USD credit. Also, if the cars are made in Mexico, they can be exported to Europe basically with no tariffs. And this website right here, trade.gov, it's a government website and it lists all of the trade agreements that Mexico has. And it does have indeed a free trade agreement with the European Union. Sometimes ChatGPT gets things wrong, so I like to double check everything. And this is true as of September 23rd of last year. And even if we export to China, ChatGPT says 15%. I haven't double checked that, but seems probably right. So you can serve the European market with a factory in Mexico and have no tariffs. And right now, Tesla still exports a lot of cars from China to Europe. They do have to pay tariffs on those exports. Based on this automotive news article from October of 2022, the tariff to import vehicles from China to Europe is 10%. Paying unnecessary tariffs is not ideal, but that is a temporary solution. If you have to shift production to another country temporarily, maybe that's okay, because still we are in an early stage of adoption to EVs. Meaning that once everyone buys an EV instead of a gasoline-powered car, you can have that factory shift all of the production to the local markets because there are so many more people buying EVs overall. So it is possible that Tesla might choose to sell the compact to the US market first. The South American market is pretty small. Tesla does not seem to be expanding its presence in South America by opening a lot of service centers and things like that, and adding a lot more superchargers everywhere. So it doesn't seem that the factory in Mexico is going to primarily just serve the market in South America. They don't buy a lot of new cars in South America, although you would think because it's such a big continent, there would be a lot of sales. But because these countries are not very rich, the number is relatively small. And even the cars that they do sell are often quite cheap. I have a few Brazilian friends over here, and they thought that the Model 3 is a huge vehicle. But for us Americans and Canadians, the Model 3 is pretty small. But from Tom Zhu, we know also, he said after the Investor Day that Tesla will be building another factory at the same time as the factory in Mexico. So we don't know exactly where that next factory is going to be. Perhaps, and just perhaps, just by looking at all of the rumors, in Indonesia. Every time there's a lot of rumors going on about something, like for example, rumors about the factory in Mexico have been going around for quite a while, and then boom, we have a factory. And the rumors about a factory in Indonesia have been going around for a year now, but the rumors in Canada, quiet lately. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It will really depend on where will Tesla choose to build that second factory together with the factory in Mexico. But it is a real possibility that Tesla may just choose to make a compact for the US market and just completely obliterate the US market with cheap battery electric vehicles. This would also make sense if Tesla is worried about geopolitics and if Tesla just wants to diversify away from China. However, we also know that Tesla wants to expand Giga Shanghai factory from about 1 million per year to 2 million. They tried applying for these permits. The government has denied those, but that's sort of a normal process over there. There's also a rumor that Elon Musk perhaps is going to go to China soon, perhaps to address this specific matter with Giga Shanghai not being able to get the permits that it needs to expand further. And if the factory in Shanghai is expanded and if it doubles its production, would the Chinese market really be able to absorb 2 million Model 3s and Ys per year? That seems a little bit high. So it would seem to me that it would just make sense to make the next generation vehicle or the cheaper vehicle in Shanghai as well if the factory is expanded. But just from a financial point of view, it does make sense for Tesla to focus primarily on the US market, because then Tesla gets these battery credits, but these batteries do need to be made within that limited geographical area. But the real question here is, how many more vehicles could Tesla sell in the North American market, or the US specifically, if Tesla sells that next generation vehicle for $25,000? I mean, these cars are going to be so much more profitable because of a $7,500 tax credit. It's going to be much easier to sell these vehicles to consumers. And on top of that credit, Tesla still gets the battery credit, which is going to be $50,000. That's on top of a $7,500 credit. I don't think the chances are high that Tesla would only basically just focus on the US market with the next generation vehicle, but it is possible, and that's something that we should keep in mind. But the Chinese auto market is so huge that it is difficult to ignore. So I think Tesla will still serve that market with a compact, but there is that possibility that it will focus on the US market first and not on the Chinese market. Maybe there will be a little bit of a delay there. There's a bit of a feisty exchange going on between Stephen Mark Ryan and Gary Black on Twitter. Stephen tweeted, when you ask Bing, what is the latest Tesla news? It gives these responses. And yeah, would you like a side of fries with your FUD as well? This looks pretty old, but I mean, Stephen tweeted this just recently. According to the latest news from The Independent, Tesla is recalling more than 350,000 vehicles over crash fears. This is pretty old. Tesla has also recalled full self-driving to fix the flaws in behavior. Really quite old. In addition, Tesla fires factory employees a day after they announced a union drive. That is very old. According to Motor Trend, Tesla has admitted that full self-driving may cause crashes and is recalling more than 360,000 vehicles. So these seem different. These are all old. So Bing does not seem to be doing a great job here. And that's where Gary Black jumps in. Again, that's because Tesla does nothing to set the record straight, either endorse PR or stop complaining. An observation is not a complaint, says Steven. Gary then says, FUD is pejorative. And Steven replies by saying, descriptive, not pejorative. This is where it ended. Okay, keep observing how the mainstream media treats Tesla. And then Gary Black also added, someday you will realize I am right that Tesla needs to fight back to level the playing field. I don't think Steven replied to that, but there's this comment right here. You may be right, but I don't like it. Perhaps eventually when Tesla gets bigger and Tesla is not able to stimulate the demand effectively anymore, maybe then it will make sense to do this. But for now, I'm not so sure because Tesla is still growing its market share as much as possible. And when you lower the prices, you make it so much harder for all other automakers to get into EVs. I mean, Ford is losing 40% with every vehicle sold. Well, maybe their numbers this year are going to be better, but these are 2022 numbers. So I think if your time frame of holding Tesla stock is less than 5 years, or maybe even less than, let's say, 10 years, there probably would be some benefits to Tesla fighting all of this FUD. But if you are holding Tesla for the very long term and you want Tesla to have a bigger market share and you don't mind Tesla earning less in the meantime, I'm not so sure that we really need a PR department. The only thing that I want, which I already talked about this on December 6th, is Tesla may want to assign a few people specifically for FSD. So when there's a crash happening or there's some sort of FSD thing going on, autopilot thing, maybe definitely fight these, because if you don't, then, for example, there's guy Dan O'Dowd. He puts out these crazy videos which they don't seem to indicate to me that Tesla has serious problems. But that's because I'm a Tesla stock investor. I know Tesla. I follow everything. But if you are just someone in the public, or if you are a regulator and you don't know everything about Tesla, then you may not be so sure. So maybe just specifically for FSD, I would prefer if Tesla did have someone fighting about that. Otherwise, when Tesla actually solves full self-driving, there might be this huge negative association with Tesla and autopilot and full self-driving that regulatory approval would then take too long, or longer than it really should. But so far, I would say it has worked out well for Tesla, and maybe Tesla does not really have to do it, but that's just my preference. If you enjoyed the first part of the video and would like to have access to videos like that early, then you may want to join Patreon down below and support the channel. And this is the Tesla stock buying opportunity explained by Elon Musk. My name is Matt Post. Just like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.